Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right. Capsule. You thought I'd get away with it. No, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing it. This is a little small section of my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Come join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub or youtube.com/TheAstroPub live and join the chat here. Say hello, chat, where we talk about lore, we talk about news. It's kind of an AMA stream, a hangout stream. We look at the latest ISC, look at all the information, and of course, we read through these monthly reports. This is one of my monthly report videos. If this is your first monthly report video of me, I ask you, if you enjoy this, to hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and of course, hit the bell icon to be notified when these are released. I do this every month. This is not a summary, as you can tell by the length. This is not a summary. This is a full read through of everything on the monthly report. I'm going to give my own sort of commentary here and there on each of the individual sections. If there's been, say, this has been worked on in the past, or this is kind of a connection to this other thing that's happened in the past, so on and so forth. There's nothing wrong with summaries, but if you really want to know all of the information that's being put out there by CIG, it's important that, at least in my opinion, in my experience, that you read every single part. So if you want to read it on yourself, I would highly suggest doing that, but I know not everyone has time to read every single thing that CIG comes out with. So you can see me as your audio reading, your audiobook version of this. Now, I am thinking about making a podcast version of this as well, which is just the audio of me reading through it. Let me know if you'd like to see that, and I'll make sure to add those to future releases as well if you'd like to. With that all being said, let's look at the monthly report for May of 2023. All right, so welcome to the latest monthly report. Last month, Cloud Imperium's dev teams continued working towards Alpha 320 and beyond, including making updates to Arena Commander, new vehicles, and more. Read on for everything done across our global studios through May. Digital studios. AI Tech. Last month, AI Tech continued to improve its collision avoidance system to give better results when ground vehicles pass each other or NPCs. They showed this off a while back. They showed this off back in April, I think. It was like April and March. They had a Star Citizen Live where they showed off some of the AI tech of kind of they avoid objects. They've attached that behavior onto vehicles, so now vehicles will avoid players, and now they're avoiding other vehicles. So like a cyclone, won't just plow through its friendly units. It'll try to avoid friendly like infantry rather than plow through people. They also added support for driving along a predefined route, similar to how NPCs can move along a path. For this case, the designers can specify certain properties, like the route, like maximum permitted speed, which direction it should be driven, and if it should loop. This sounds a lot like they're doing city content. So they talked about NPCs walking along the sidewalk. Now they're talking about vehicles driving in a certain loop. This sounds like adding life to a city or a town. Work then began on a dynamic pathfinding regeneration feature to improve how NPCs find and follow alternative routes. For example, if a hazard, tree falling, vehicle stopping, fire hazard, etc., impacts a navigation mesh triangle, the navigation volume will notify all related paths and check if new requests are submitted. The first stage of this was implementing an anchor structure to keep track of a location's navigation meshes and triangles, which is notified when the triangle is changed. These navigation anchors are then used to understand when parts of a triangle are modified and to check if a new pathfinding is needed. So, yeah, basically more responsive, more reacting. May also saw AI Tech begin investigating and implementing a solution for NPCs entering and exiting ships from EVA using external doors of an airlock system. For this, they set up a ship and a seat access as a usable to allow NPCs to find their closest entry position, fly to it, and trigger the right interaction. They also had an account for a ship's rotational velocity, and allow NPCs to adjust their orientation as they approach. Something they've been working on a lot is NPCs being able to disable and board ships, which sounds like they're working on something for the PU for that actual behavior to function. So you're not just safe in your ship, that if you're, say, being attacked by law enforcement because you're a pirate or an outlaw, you get disabled, and then you'll have to fight them off your ship, because that's something they want to do long term anyways. So on the AI tool side, improvements continued for both the usable coordinator and Apollo subsumption. For the usable coordinator, optimizations were made to the code and logic flow. They updated the visuals and changed to a new usable data view too. For Apollo, the team implemented find references functionality with support for subsumption functions. Subsumption is the logic that they use for all NPCs. It's the thing that allows them to make everything run a little bit better. I'll turn down the volume of this a little bit because I think it's kind of overwhelming. That's a little bit better, I'm sure. So yeah, it's effectively the logic that the NPCs use in game. It's just the background information. The AI tech also completed various support tasks, including creating flow graph nodes for all subsumption assignments to help the designers create scripted AI behaviors. More variable types for use as assignment inputs were added alongside support for the usable system, tactical point system, and Alpha 319. So, yeah, it creates scripted AI behaviors. Okay. Animation. The facial animation team continued to create assets for PU-specific character types, this time relating to missions and gameplay. That's another thing that's been really hinted at, is that CIG is really pushing for missions this year. So as we get closer to 320, which, again, in my personal opinion, isn't likely until October, we're going to start probably seeing a little bit more of this with mission givers or other things like that being kind of brought back to the forefront, or at least the beginnings of that. Art characters. In May, the character art team began to work on 2 outfits for the Dusters gang and 1 for the Headhunters. Dusters is in Stanton and Headhunters is a gang in Pyro. So they've been talking about those a lot back and forth. Alongside this, character concept art prepared to hand off documents for further Dusters outfits. So the Dusters is the other major gang in Stanton, and they've existed in the past next to the Nova Riders. So they're likely going to be replacing some of the places where you see the Ninetails hanging out. And I have some theories about them, which I will be talking about on my other channel, The Astro Historian. Put the link right there. Check that out if you want to know a little bit more about the lore of Star Citizen. I've got an interesting theory which is coming up about the original settlers of Stanton and what happened to them. So keep an eye on that one. Art ships. In the UK, the vehicle content team moved to an as yet unannounced ship through White Box stage. It's currently in Grey Box, with both the interior and exterior progressing well. A new ground vehicle variant progressed through the Grey Box stage too. My theory on the ground vehicle variant is a medical version of the Ursa, but we'll see. The team approached the end of their pass on vehicle tractor beams. This included work on Origin 315P, Drake Caterpillar, and Cutlass Black, Consolidated Outland Nomad, and Misk Whole C. So that's something that almost certainly is going to come out in 320, is vehicle-based tractor beams along with the SRV. It seems to be very heavily hinted at, especially if 320 comes out in, October. Development of the Crusader Spirit continued. The C1 is almost Greybox complete, while the A1 had its Lot 0 review scheduled for early June. That means that the C1 is nearing the end of its second stage. A1 is completed with its third stage, and the next stage is final art right before it gets released. We still haven't heard anything about the E1 in a while, and unfortunately the progress tracker has the C1 and the A1 and the E1 all on one kind of big glump. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the C1 and the A1 released sometime in 320, or more than likely an IAE patch, which would probably be a 320 variant, like a 321, 322, something like that. So MISC Freelancer's component rework progressed to the final art stage, with LODs mostly finished and some polished tasks outstanding. It's due to finish final art this month. Awesome. They've been trying to rework the Freelancer's internal component bays to actually make them work. It's only been doing it for like 2 months. That's pretty fast turnaround. This isn't a gold standard pass, but it does improve the Freelancer, so it's not as useless. Now you can actually pull parts out and put it back in and stuff. So last month, the team began preparing the RSI Polaris for white box. This is going to require some explanation because they go through the quote here, but it's something that I want to talk about because a lot of you probably clicked this video after the fact because I know I'm going to put the Polaris on there with some catchy quote on this one. So that's the important part. Because this is a sizable capital ship, we have been breaking the vehicle down and planning a resource pack so that an interior can be constructed out of reusable elements. We also spent time reviewing the concept to highlight any areas that would need additional design time due to the new gold standard requirements. EU vehicle team. Now, this means that Polaris work will begin shortly, either in June or sometime after this month, around this time. Some aspects may be heading into white box, other ones may still be in concept, but that doesn't mean the Polaris is coming out this year. It does mean the Polaris is in active development. So it's actively being worked on, there are teams on it, and they're working through it. And what's important to note about this is that this part where they say, and planning a resource pack so that an interior can be constructed out of reusable elements. That is very important going forward. They do this with a lot of ships, but specifically with larger ships, they need these resource packs to function so that they can use them for other ships of the same manufacturer that have large variants. So the Polaris is really the kind of white box stage, the beginning plannings of both the Perseus and the Galaxy. And since we know that the technical hurdle for modules has now been supplanted, they've managed to get over that technical hurdle for modules. It's now just a matter of taking those modules, the technical aspect of modules, and actually making them work in-game with in-game parts. So this is a good sign going forward, but it's still a long ways, probably 12 to 18 months from now. So probably more like IAE next year when we'll see the Polaris. But it's a good stage. It means that they're actively working on it. We'll have more updates. And of course, like I said, subscribe for more content. I'll definitely be following along with this and give you updates on this one as well. In the US, the Temporal Storm approached the end of its LOD 0 graybox phase, with the team applying materials, palms, and decals to the exterior and interior. This is currently in the polishing stage, with the devs tuning the visual balance. They also applied wear to the entire exterior and prepared to begin customization work with various paints. The vehicle's interior lighting is nearly complete, with an upcoming pass planned for the exterior. The Temporal Storm has been storming, racing, blowing through development. It was one of the unannounced vehicles that was on there. It's on LOD 0, which is the second to last stage. The next stage after that is final art, and then it goes out. So we might see the Temporal Storm for 320. Almost guaranteed for 320, honestly, if it continues at this pace. Unless they put a hold onto it. They do that with the whole C, where they kind of intentionally dragged it out, even though they pretty much were done with it back in like October. So Graybox for the Apoa Santokyai is mostly complete, with its only dashboard work remaining. We have been generating a new set of textures to be used for labeling and the dashboard buttons, as well as creating a new damage map to show through the gaps in the armor, which will be unique to Aopoa. We're also creating a new palm sheet, which will also be unique to Aopoa, US vehicle team. Which, again, that's one other thing where the more assets they generate for a ship, the more they can reuse them for other ships. So we might see more Aopoa ships in the future. There is the leaked I'm not going to try to say the name. There's a leaked ship which sounds like a Xi'an ship with Sulian or something like that. which could be a Gatak ship. It could also be an Aopoa ship. We don't know. But that may also be related to this whole thing right here. Hey, welcome to ArcCorp. Community. In May, the community team supported the completion of Alpha 3.18 patch cycle and the launch of Alpha 3.19 Call to Adventure by providing the developers with a wealth of feedback from the community. This involved working alongside the player experience team to collect, collate, and implement feedback to further improve the overall player experience. They also continued tracking, reporting, and following up on more common bugs and performance issues the community was facing. In preparation for Alpha 3.19, the community team released another edition of Patch Watch to highlight new features not on the roadmap, as well as a contest welcoming the community to ArcCorp. I love this outfit. It's fantastic. May also saw the culmination of months of preparation as the doors to the Bevic Convention Center opened for Invictus Launch Week 2953. This set players up for success and ensured both newcomers and veterans got the most out of their military-themed event. The team compiled a comprehensive section of information, including the ILW FAQ, new player guide, welcome hub, welcome back pilot page, and Spectrum catch-all post. To add to the festivities, the community favorite manufacturer screenshot challenges returned. Invictus Launch Week also saw the unveiling of several new vehicles to share more information with the community directly. And to share more information with the community directly from the designers. The team published separate QAs for the Temporal Storm, RSI Lynx, and Mirai Fury series. Furthermore, the team supported and attended community-driven events and met players in person at BCon event in Belgium, and the Sacramento Bar Citizen is part of the Bar Citizen World Tour. The BCon. Yeah, the BECon. Those. Lastly, the team continued to work on several upcoming real-life events, such as CitizenCon and the upcoming International Bar Citizen Weekend. International Bar Citizen Weekend 2023 will take place on June 17th through 18th at venues near all our studios, and we'd love to see you there for some beverages and banter. I'll have to go there. I guess there's one going on in Austin. I'll have to go there. All right. Engine. Nope. Hit all of them. Sorry about that. I am not a programmer. My programming knowledge is very, very basic. I am not an engineer. Starfleet engineer. I cannot turn rocks into replicators. I'm not an engine seer. I do not know the canticles of the Omnissiah. I am not a Covenant engineer. I can't pull apart and rebuild a electric vehicle from like scratch through memory. I am but me, a simple man reading simple things or complex things on the internet. So I'm going to read this because it's important to read through it. But as always, if you understand this language better than I can, please do write down in the comments below what this means, because the way this is going to be spoken is very complex, to say the least. All right, engine. Part of the core engine team's work last month was supporting Alpha 3.19. A major element of this was enabling design to overwrite density lifetime manager settings based on spatial markup. Once the design utilized this, the engine team will be able to add specific cleanup rules to different areas of the game. For example, some areas could be cleaned up more aggressively to prevent persistent items from negatively affecting gameplay. Aha! So we've known for a while that they're going to need some sort of cleanup service in the back end to be able to clean up stuff that's going on the servers. They can't keep having literal garbage pile up. So they did some temporary fixes in 3.19. This is more of the long-term way they're going to fix it. They're building up an element to try to clean up the back end. So this is engine building up that process, which will then be handed off to the design team, I'm sure, who will then have to kind of figure out a tool or figure out some way of adapting this to make sense in the universe. You know, what will go forward, what will go back, that kind of thing. The team also progressed with their work on Starbuild, adding the remaining Linux support. Starbuild is now on feature parity with the old code build system and will be rolled out to the other departments soon. It's just kind of an interior tool. For the renderer, the team started removing legacy Gen 12 code. What? Legacy Gen 12 code? There's a lot to remove, but this will result in a leaner and easier to maintain renderer code when completed. Maybe they meant just legacy code, not Gen 12 stuff. Maybe there's some other stuff that got to be added, but... and for those who are wondering, Linux is actually what Star Citizen runs on. All the servers run on Linux. I think even all the servers and backends will run on Linux, which is weird because I think they only recently got a Star Citizen version that runs on Linux. But don't quote me on that one. The core engine team also progressed with the generic shape system, adding editor support to save generic as well as remaining shapes. Multiple segments will be added before it's handed to the designer's code. I don't know what the shape system is, so that's something I'm not familiar with. For Mem Replay 2.0, the team are currently adding more features, including file open dialog, faster loading, and async symbol resolving to get it ready for wider use. They're also adding optimizations and continuing to stabilize their future feature stream to integrate it back into the main development stream. Last month, the physics team focused on improving bug fixing the new method for tracking unique geometry parts. They then improved cloth simulation for better simulation results, updated rope and pulley systems, and added a cantilever simulation for support. There's a lot of stuff going on with rope and like basic physics around rope, which CIG has been working on. I'm looking forward to the future, oh gosh, what is that? There's a game dev conference that I'm blanking on. Let me know in the comments below. The kind of the future rope stuff, because if you think beams are the only thing that's going to happen in Star Citizen, you're wrong. There's a lot of stuff CIG wants to do, but beams are easy for them to accomplish. But the rope stuff has been going on for months, for years. They've been talking about rope in the engine. And, pulleys and cantilevers and all these other sorts of things. So we're going to see some pretty complex rope puzzles at the very least for Squadron 42, if not beyond that. Finally, physics supported vehicles on tech issues and investigated performances issues with Alpha 319 for the release team. All right. Woo! Features Arena Commander. This is a big one. I've been saying this for a very long time. You got to watch the Arena Commander team over the last couple of weeks, and this update really shows why. Last month, the engineering team began a full refactor of how the game rules system serializes network variables and communicates with the server, which will make it compatible with server meshing. Work also continued on full refactor of spawning module. Whoa, that's a big addition right there. They're going to add server meshing to Star Marine, or to Arena Commander. So they'll be able to... Oh, God. That means they could make a ton of NPC spawn stuff and support a lot more players in Arena Commander. Possibly as many as you would on a typical server for the PU, but it's a much smaller area. That's pretty huge. As someone in chat said, planet-side Star Citizen. That's definitely possible with that sort of technology. Initial work was completed on a new game rule difficulty module. This was handed off to the Squadron 42 team for expansion, as it will initially be used to allow them to set varying parameters parameters based on selected difficulty mode. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's an experimental mode right there. However, the features team is expecting it to pick up again after Alpha 320 for use in Arena Commander's PvE game modes. So someone earlier in chat was asking if we're going to see AI in Arena Commander. I think that almost is a guarantee, because the way that they use difficulty modes is how accurate the NPCs are going to be on you. So the more difficulty, the higher the difficulty mode, the less mercy timers they have, and the lower, the more mercy timers they have. There's some other variables as well, but that's the big one, make combat easier. And that was almost exclusively PvP, or PvP, FPS. So this is almost certainly going to be talking about FPS stuff. But of course, we're not going to see FPS AI until after server meshing is in. So, but they've added server meshing, so. A refactor was also done on how loading screens are utilized. The team are currently experimenting with having separate game mode load screens that update to show the map once a response from the server confirms where the client is heading. This will fix a long-standing issue of load screens inaccurately showing the map players about to enter. Okay. A rework of the team balancing and competitive scoring also began last month. This will enable groups of players to stay together more consistently, balance teams based on the leaderboard stats, and enable a new mechanic allowing players to volunteer to switch teams if an imbalance is detected during a match. For competitive scoring, the team are currently experimenting with various adjustments, including awarding higher scores based on KDA/rankings of opponents and awarding lower scores for killing the same players repeatedly. We talked about that on ISC 2 weeks ago or last week, where like if you just are seal clubbing, you get less points, and if you're punching up, you're getting more points. So you'll be less. Your ranking will not go as high if you're constantly facing lower opponents or easier opponents. Finally, engineering began experimenting with increasing max server FPS, decreasing the actor delay buffer, and increasing the packet rate in an effort to reduce latency and desync in Star Marine. Okay, it's important. In May, Arena Commander's design team began converting the Theaters of War spawn screen to most other game modes. This will allow players to select their general spawn area, customize FPS loadouts with matches, and select FPS and vehicle loadouts on the fly. Now, this is where things are. I'm going to say something that's controversial, because this is something I said at the very beginning of the year, and I still sort of stand by it, but I now have to kind of correct a little bit here to explain. Theaters of War is dead. I was wrong. Theaters of War is not coming this year. I always knew that wasn't going to come, but I'm also sort of right that Theaters of War is still coming. It's just not Theaters of War anymore. Theaters of War is dead. Long live Theaters of War. I don't think we will see Theaters of War. It's being stripped for parts, but we're going to see effectively what Theaters of War was going to be, a combined arms gameplay. And I really highly suggest you watch the last two ISCs to really get the idea of what's going on, because everything is changing in Arena Commander. So this is an example of them using elements of Theaters of War for all game matches of Star Citizen, not of Arena Commander, not just Theaters of War. So we're going to start to see a lot more of this unified language around Arena Commander, so that it makes it easier to do combined arms, just FPS, just flight, or, any of the kind of combination. So. Work also progressed on an update to Vandal Swarm, with the team experimenting with the new gameplay mechanics. The conversion of Security Post Korea was also completed, which will be added as a new map to all game modes except Classic Race. The team also polished the track layout for the fourth new addition to the New Horizon Speedway collection, a Halloran circuit. While putting the finishing touches on the first atmospheric arena, the arena Winner's Circle will be available in all dogfight game modes. Finally, design and VFX teams completed a pass of all locations featured in Arena Commander to increase their overall visual quality. Features, characters, and weapons. Last month, the features team worked on ammo repooling, which allows players to redistribute the ammo stored in their suit and inventory to maximize the number of full magazines. Once complete, it'll make it easier. It'll make less likely a player is left with a large number of magazines containing few bullets each, as it will prioritize filling up the magazine in the weapon first. Now, the question I have for that is, does that mean that we'll be pulling weapons or magazines which are the most highest capped off, or is this going to be taking, if you have, say, a partial mag, say like you have a mag with like 3 bullets in it, and you have a mag that has like 10 bullets in it, and it's like a 20 round mag, does that 3 bullet just magically appear in that 10 bullet magazine now? Or does it just prioritize which ones? That's the question I have for this one. I was reading that earlier and being like, I don't know if I like that. It seems kind of too gamey for me. Being able to combine those would be fine in like a kind of like a inventory screen, but I don't know if I like that idea as kind of an automatic feature. The team also explored a new negative actor status triggered by radiation. Fallout in Star Citizen. Radiation can be generated from a point emitter, which has a bigger impact on characters the closer they are to the source, or it can be ambient within a room. Irradiated water was also explored, which affects an actor based on how submerged they are. When a character is affected by the radiation, the protection of their outfit will start to decay. Once protection is gone, the actor will suffer radiation sickness and will need to seek medical aid to recover. The outfit will regenerate its protective layer over time. This is important because this is a major factor for Pyro, but also in space in general. For those of you who don't know, space is filled with deadly radiation that is very easy to cause major problems and havoc to astronauts today. And CIG wants space to be brutal. They want it to be absolutely unforgiving. And radiation is a key element of that. Now, I don't think they're going to make it super realistic. I think if you have shielding or a ship around you, you'll be fine. But your ship's armor or hull will have a status where it can only reflect so much radiation before it starts coming through the hull. So you're going to have different aspects of the game, which will likely have some of these parts. So yeah, this is an important part. Features gameplay. Montreal's PU team focused on proof of concept investigations for the entity removal / destruction / trash bin feature. The feature's test-driven development will be based on these investigation results and proof of concept findings, the latter of which was completed last month. The team also supported the Vehicle Died event, which is used by soft death and vehicle destruction, and made quality of life bug fixes for Alpha 3.19.1, staging content, and game dev. Plus, an issue with the RSI Constellation Series Copilot Seat UI not correcting properly to IFCS was fixed in the content files. This was combined with a code fix aimed at the EUI rules to prevent it from only tracking the pilot. These changes also create the potential for other ships to have their Copilot UI updated properly if needed. Very cool. I don't know if that'll matter too much because there's a new UI system coming in, but it's good to know. All right, it's another big one. Mission. The Mission Features team continued to work on ship escort, data heist, and consignment retrieval missions, and added the finishing touches to a new unlawful salvage mission where the ship must be stripped of an incriminating paint job before the law enforcement arrives. Another exciting development is that we're exploring new lightweight PvP/PvE event set aboard a modified version of the Siege of Orison barge, in which players must figure out how to open shipping containers in order to steal the items within, all while Ninetales outlaws hold down the location for themselves. Mission Features team. Awesome. So it's kind of like a Ghost Hollow mission combined with the Rhea mission, where there's like contraband or something inside these crates that you can get access to, but you're also going to be attacked by Ninetales, and then it's a free-for-all. Anyone can attack you. So, and chat's like Ship Escort. Yeah, Ship Escort's been in the game in the past, but it's never really worked properly. They've been working on Ship Escort and Data Heist for a while now. So both of those things are working on. When I say this is a year of missions, they've been doing a lot of work on new mission types, some of which may likely see the light of day in 3.20, if not shortly afterwards. I wouldn't be surprised even if we got like a 3.20.2 or .3 patch for IAE, if we got some new missions added to it as well. So it's hard to see them. We'll still see. That doesn't mean guarantee, but there's been a lot of stuff they've been working on. For Alpha 319.1, the team rebalanced cargo generation within ships across various mission types, including salvage, assassination, and bounty hunting. This involved removing unsellable commodities and ensuring the profit fits the risk involved. Mission features actively worked on refactoring old missions into the current modular library, including missing person. Alongside this, they refactored how the destroy drugs missions work and made parts of them modular. For example, the previous version spawned hundreds of individual boxes, but with the help of new code, they can now simply spawn pallets that come with drug box quote-unquote loadouts. Alongside significantly improved performance and reliability, this method allows the team to control the number of pallets spawned for different mission difficulties. Mission features ongoing work on Bounty Hunting V2 progressed well too. The designers are currently working with systematic services and tools to develop the systems required to have virtual NPCs bounties traveling around the system. One of the engineers, with help from the Interactables team, is also developing a method for pods to attach to points in the world so they can seamlessly enter and exit the game space. Finally, the designers supported the Invictus launch week which involved fixing bugs and maintaining the Expo Hall transition system, the Javelin Tour, and Bengal Flyby. Graphics, VFX programming, and Planet Tech. Before we get to that, there's a huge amount of Bounty Hunting V2. I don't think we'll see Bounty Hunting V2 in 320, but we'll see, because it's kind of late right now for us to get more information. There's been a lot of work on it, though. It still seems like there's still a lot of work to do. Graphics, VFX programming, and Planet Tech. The graphics features team spent the month working on performance improvements and new features, including screen space shadows, improvements to quantum jump tunnels, and a render to texture zone culling. A GPU memory allocator and an upgraded resource cache compiler were among the new performance boosting upgrades, while the evolving temporal super resolution, an automated upscaling system that can now upsample opaque objects, officially passed its first milestone. Global illumination is well underway. So far, the first iterations of a hash map-based Radiance cache, ray generation code, and ray tracing prototypes were completed. Improvements to Gen 12's validation error debugger were made to improve the accuracy of bug detection for faster issue assessment. In preparation for deferred render graph execution, Vulkan's frame synchronization was improved. Issues with the gaps in pipeline resources set at bind time were resolved with a remapping update that uses continuous resource set layouts. The Planet Tech team started finalizing quantum obstacle generation with generic shapes in asteroid fields, a collision issue detector, and where dirt and paint modifiers were also added to the Rastar tool. Ongoing improvements. Rastar, for those who know, is how they make ground-based outposts and stuff like that, but I think it's also, there's been many mentions of asteroid bases. So, yeah, asteroid bases are going to be a thing beyond Grimhex. Think something like the UGFs, but on asteroids. They've been talking about that on the monthly reports for a while. Ongoing improvements to the biome builder will reduce constant spawn/despawning, which in turn will relieve the physics team of large destruction queues. Water can now be simulated in engine and features the new disturbance component improvements. Finally, recent VFX features and bug fixes saw several direct improvements to both the editor and core tech framework. For example, the new Master VFX library can resave and export in the P4 format, and particles can now be found in dedicated effects browser. Bugs related to damage maps, particle effect placement, and in-editor crashes were solved too. In-game branding Montreal. The in-game branding team continued working on an interior and exterior signage for Ruin Station and supported the EU locations team. Lighting. In May, the lighting team worked on Invictus Launch Week and continued to produce content for the Pyro system. This was mainly focused on Ruin Station's exterior and lighting modules for its interior. Live Tools. The Live Tools team continued to study the usability of the Network Operations Center and are now starting to collect the results. This will allow them to establish an action to highlight improvements needs and priorities for the future. The team also released a new version of the internal error handling pipeline, which featured significant improvements over its predecessor. Locations. In May, the locations team continued working on Pyro, making good progress on Ruin Station. They supported Invictus Launch Week 2. Between major tasks, one of the artists worked on new racetracks, which was shown in a recent episode of Inside Star Citizen. The Sandbox team further developed planetary content for Pyro and continued to support the Montreal-based team on the new underground facilities. Organics team created a new fauna for Pyro. What? Organics team created new fauna for Pyro and are currently reworking some, I'm sure, of the upcoming system's planets to bring them to current expectations. For those of you who don't know, CIG has been talking a whole lot about fauna over the last about a year now. Back in like May, June of last year is when they really started talking about behavior, animations, and stuff like that. So we saw that recently as well with Boids, with like birds and fish sort of stuff. So for those who don't know, that includes things like the blind Oni crab, which was seen in the, I think, 2016 Citizen Con, whichever one where they ended up in Lorville. That was 2016. It might have been 2015 or 2017. But there was also the pyro crab, also known as the whip crab. There's the boreal stalker in in Microtech. There's also the storm wall in Crusader. Of course, the classic Ranta, which is, its dung is all over all these caves. So there's a lot of fauna, which they've been working on in the past. But it sounds like they're doing even more, so. We also have some very cool content that we're working on alongside this. We'll share more about later date. Organics team. We're going to actually see fauna in-game soon? Yeah, not like in-game, but like on screen in an ISC. That'd be cool. This is a new racetrack. So they did another version of the racetrack. They did the racetrack of the ice one. Now this is all tropical. I can't wait for Star Kart. For Citizen Kart. Narrative. Over the course of May, the narrative team continued working on several of the mission initiatives started in previous months, including data heist, package extraction, and consignment retrieval. They also worked on various design teams to brainstorm new mission ideas. Narrative also kicked off further discussions on Pyro, specifically going over the areas of influence of the system's various factions, as well as defining which groups are allies and rivals. During the recent motion capture sessions, the team recorded the first air traffic control assistant for cargo, and will be looking to review and refine the wider experience in future months. The team also began polishing and implementing a new tourist behavior that will debut in an upcoming patch. Narrative also dedicated several of their weekly jams to exploring some of the verse's alien cultures and answering questions for some upcoming Xeno language development. Finally, on the dispatch front, the team released the portfolio outlining the history of Invictus Launch Week, a Whitley's Guide for the Prospector mining ship, and wrapped up the month with another batch of Galactopedia entries. Online Services, Montreal. In May, Online Services team applied fixes to the character repair system, enabling players to fix some login and other issues without requiring CIG support. They also provided bug fixes and optimizations for ASOP terminals. The remainder of the month was spent optimizing persistent entity streaming to improve the performance of its backend database. Research and development. In May, the R&D team continued improving to temporal renderer mode for atmospheric and volumetric clouds. Additionally, planetary terrain height map generation was optimized to eliminate frame rate hitches that were reported by players. Aside from using a more suitable partitioning scheme for the tessellization of terrain patches, the changes also include terrain quad viewport calling before further tessellization by the GPU. Resulting height maps are later used to render large-scale planet terrain shadows and spawn GPU particles on the ground. Systematic Services and Tools. Systematic Services and Tools spent the month working towards Bounty Hunting V2, including finalizing upstream work on the character creation service, R&D for bounty contracts missions, a bounty marker prototype, and connecting the NPC tracker service to the game server. Additionally, the new C# service, or C pound, that's C#, I think. C pound symbol, C hashtag, service wrapper was completed. The team also continued working on the Quantum/Odin tool, including making progress on the data-driven economy QuantaState, QuantaLife, and the battle matrix and battle system. That's the first update. We've had a solid Quanta update in a long time, which means they're still working on it. That's the first mention of a battle matrix and a battle system. What that tells me is that they're working on a system for NPCs to fight one another without players ever being involved. So we might see, an old school RPG type thing where you have, or like say, like the auto resolve for Total War games kind of thing. Maybe that. C#. Okay, chat's telling me it's C#, so I was right in calling it C#. C pound, yes. I thought it was C#, but it was one of those things where I don't really, I don't trust it because I've seen that before. I'm like, that is a C#. But I'm also old and I know that's the pound symbol. Finally, SST continued to support the recent live release, including several bug fixes and ship price modifications. UI. In May, the UI team's artists and designers worked on the user interface for bounty hunting, as well as concepts for upcoming gameplay features, while the Arena Commander team upgraded the multiplayer game's front-end menus. The UI tech team continued improving their tools, including making performance fixes and improvements to the debugging of complex UI screens. They also continued to work on the new interior and minimap feature. This is initially for Squadron 42, but will eventually be added to the PU, making navigating caves and landing zones a much smoother experience. I really hope that we don't get to see the interiors of a cave with the UI, with like the mini-maps, unless we can chart them out a little bit more. I wouldn't mind a UI, like a mini-map, but requiring you to some actual actions to be able to see around you. Lastly, VFX. Last month, the VFX team revisited several old particle libraries to take advantage of newer attributes that didn't exist when they were originally created. For example, alpha erosion is a setting that erodes a particle's alpha channel, reducing the overall transparency in the process and helping to optimize the game's visuals. This was used effectively in Lorville's recently updated chimney smoke effects. Work also continued on several new derelicts and the module kits for various pyro locations. So, lots of work on Pyro stuff. We've got some UI stuff we're working on there. The first updates for Quantum and like the battle matrix and a battle system, which I hadn't heard before. Bounty hunting, lots of updates to Bounty Hunting V2. Some R&D stuff for volumetric clouds and map generation. Lots of stuff on missions. New air traffic controller stuff. Organics in Pyro, so a new batch of fauna coming out for Pyro, possibly. Sounds like we're getting closer and closer to fauna being in the game. Probably not into 4.0, but it'll be interesting. Let's see, going through some of this other stuff. Gen 12 updates, more updates for rope systems, and just general graphical updates. Lots of new missions. Ship escort, data heist, consignment retrieval. There's also kind of a barge mission, is I guess what we can call it. There's soft death updates. RSI Constellation's been updated. Let's see. Ammo repooling, radiation effects affecting players now. Arena Commander got a huge update with everything. I'm not going to summarize that. It's really impossible to do that. Let's see. Community team going around the world. There's an International Bar Citizen Day on June 18th and 19th. Ships, the C1 and the A1. C1 is in end of gray box. A1's done of Lot 0. Freelancers kind of updates is almost done. The Polaris began its white box. Tumbrel Storm is almost done. The Suntok Yai is almost complete with its at least gray box. And then we also have an unannounced ship through white box stage and a new ground vehicle variant in gray box stage as well. Dusters are getting a lot more updates. The not only gang outfits, but like civilian outfits, plus the Headhunters got some stuff. A bunch of AI stuff, including navigation avoidance, and the abilities for AI to be able to EVA and get into other stuff. That's kind of everything from the May monthly report for 2023. If you enjoyed this, if you're watching this after the fact, let me know down below if you find this helpful, if this is helpful for you. And of course, let me know if you'd be interested in me doing, putting this out as a podcast version, kind of as just an audio version, kind of more lightweight version for you to listen to. And I'll make sure to keep that links in the description below if you do. And yeah, thank you for watching. Come join us live Thursday, 7 p.m. I'm sorry, 7 p.m. my time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Love to come and join us live and hang out with chat here. Say goodbye, chat. Thank you again for hanging out. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.